Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined daily by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. Obviously, a lot went down over the weekend. We're going to get into that. We also have Marcus Myers that's going to join us in about 5 or 10 minutes as well. Always enjoy him on a Marcus Myers Monday morning. That's a mouthful. But first, Texas doing so well, Jerry. I hear that you're corrupting Bevo even.
Man, look at that. Yes, Bevo has gotten to the act. He was celebrating the commitments. I'm about to celebrate the commitments right now. Who's ready for this? I'm a man of my word. I'm bringing them up, guys.
Oh, my God.
All right, who's ready? Who's ready?
Stop the show. No. Oh my God, Jerry Hamilton. Hey, while he's got a mouthful, I'll update people with the news from the weekend. Texas adds 3 players via the transfer portal, 2 all ACC members, and the number 1 player overall in the portal. I'd say that's quite the weekend for Steve Sarkeesian, Brandon Harris, and the guys, Chris Gilbert, John Michael Jones, all of those guys behind the scenes making things happen for the Longhorns. Rasheem Biles started off on Saturday, the all-ACC linebacker from Pitt, 181 tackles over the last 2 years. Cam Coleman happened around 12:30 on Saturday or on Sunday afternoon. Jerry, you and Marcus and other people went live almost immediately from that. Coleman committing to Texas over Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and Alabama. The number 1 player overall in the transfer portal. He certainly will help Arch Manning in that receiving core. And then about a couple of hours after, Hollywood Smothers, the number 2 or 3 running back in the transfer portal, had originally committed to Alabama in the portal, but he never signed. Texas brought him in on an official visit this past weekend. He signed and committed to the University of Texas on Sunday as well. Texas doing heavy work in the portal right now, no doubt about it. Also getting some good news yesterday afternoon, Jerry. Trevor Gooseby, the left tackle, first team All-SEC left tackle, announced he was returning to the Longhorns. Big news there for Texas as well. We had him on our show last night, Jerry, on the live stream. We'll play a little clip of that for you, but you can always go back and check that out as well. Trevor, good young man, really was excited about returning and things going on at the University of Texas. And then also just about an hour after that, Connor Robertson, last year's starting center, took over about midway through the year. He also announced his return to the Longhorns. Christian Clark is saying it has entered the transfer portal. That is 1 loss over the weekend. The running back, after getting both Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers in the transfer portal, Christian Clark decided to opt elsewhere. He's expected to visit Alabama, I believe, now at some point. We'll see what that means. Jerry, your thought on the weekend as a whole, now that you've got your mouthful cleansed.
Wait, I got to be real. Somebody said there's no way I'm going to finish those. I am finishing those on the show, but you also have to have an exit strategy. So I have a bottle of water with Metamucil in it. That's my exit strategy. You got to have an exit strategy.
Yeah, I'd say that's a strategy of sorts. Jerry, what did you think of the weekend, man?
Look, I thought it was a great weekend, obviously, but here's why I think it may be bigger than we even think right now. Yes, Cam Coleman, most highly rated prospect in the portal outside of quarterbacks. Rasheem Biles, I think, is going to be one of the top returning playmakers on the defensive side in college football, one of the top returning linebackers. Look, they got 2 guys that are not only high level starters, but I think they got 2 potential first team all SEC players too. I mean, that's one thing about it. I mean, Texas added all SEC level talent is what they did. So that was huge. Hollywood Smothers obviously is a good combo with Raleek Brown, different players, different running backs. Both of those guys are highly targeted guys in the passing game, which I think is a really good fit in Sark's offense. I think the news of Trevor Gooseby and Connor Robertson is huge, though, because you need some continuity. And now you have 3 guys that started the bowl game back the last couple of games. I mean, Connor Robertson, I think, is a pretty quality player at center. I really do. When he got thrown into the fire against Oklahoma, he performed well. Obviously, that was a couple of years ago. Jake Majors went on to come back from that ankle injury and start. But whenever he's played, he's been I think he's been a quality player. That doesn't mean a player's not without struggles. It's an inexperienced player in games. But I think that, having Baker, Gooseby, and Connor Robertson back now, I mean, that is big for the offense because, I think Arch Manning needs guys he can trust and knows. I don't think going in and retooling an entire offensive line, if Gooseby had gone pro, save one guy, is necessarily the answer. I think that your quarterback has to have confidence with those guys, and he does know both of his tackles and knows his center. And I think that's important for Arch Manning. There's got to be trust there.
Yep. Also over the weekend, just to dip away from football for 1 minute, men's basketball team went on the road and beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. The women's basketball team, however, were Kim Bulkied. LSU handed Vic Schaefer his first loss, and the women their first loss of the season on Sunday. Narrowly, LSU went out by a big amount, and then Texas kind of shaved it, but didn't quite make the comeback complete. Texas gets its first loss of the season. I would not want to be on Vic Schaefer's team this morning. I will just put it that way because he kind of goes at it hard when they lose. But it's the first loss of the season for Maddie Booker, Rory Harmon, and the women. Blake and Jerry, as we look forward to the rest of the show, we're going to bring in Marcus Myers here in a minute. My thought process on everything that went down yesterday, it was clearly orchestrated is not the right word. Because it wasn't, they didn't know for sure that Cam Coleman was going their way. They didn't know for sure some of these guys were going their way. They had a good idea with Trevor Goose because I think he told the staff behind the scenes early. Right, Jerry?
Yeah.
But it sure felt like it was just one boom after another on Sunday, kind of like that. It was like an echo effect. You got one and then the next, and good things just couldn't stop happening.
Yeah. No doubt. Look, and it started really with Rasheem Biles, right? And it just carried over for a 24-hour period. I think it wasn't orchestrated. I think it's just how visits ended, right? Rasheem Biles had a visit scheduled to Miami on Sunday. Well, you got a little pressure there because you don't want him getting on campus at Miami. Not with the momentum they have. He'd be watching a team practice to play in the national championship game. So there was some pressure there to get that done, especially with the need at linebacker, with Christian Allegro going to Ohio State. And then with Hollywood Smothers, obviously Cam Coleman, he'd wrapped up his visits. So that was inevitable. He was not going to take any more visits. I don't think he was going to carry that thing out into this next week. I think he wanted to have it done at that point because guys will start. The freshmen moved in to their dorms yesterday. The portal transfer guys are going to be in, I think, Austin Thursday. A lot of those guys will be in Thursday, Friday. So these things are moving fast, and I don't think there's time to, this isn't like high school where you carry it out and wait on your hat signing day, right? And you have 4 hats. That's not the way the portal is going to be, but it wasn't orchestrated at the same time. Hollywood Smothers needed to make that move. Right. If he was going to go to Texas, there's an agent involved. You don't want to leave a team hanging that you'd committed to necessarily. I don't think that's good business for an agent. If that was going to get done, it was going to get done quickly because that's not good business from an agent perspective. That can hurt you with a university that you will probably have more guys that will be looked at by that university. So, but all in all, I think it was a great 24-hour period in the portal for Texas, and there still needs to be filled. I think, Blake, we have a graphic on that. I think Texas is still waiting on Wendell Gregory, the edge at Oklahoma State. Obviously, Mikey Bennett, the offensive tackle from Yale, who I think is a really talented prospect. I got a thought on him, Bobby. It's a little different from some of these other guys. Mikey Bennett has been to FSU, Texas, and Indiana. We'll see if he follows through and visits Oregon after the dead period. But he's a guy who hasn't had an NIL recruitment, and he is a last-year player in college, so he's got to make his count from an NIL perspective. He's in a little different position than some of these other guys. And then Kedu Luave was at Michigan over the weekend, the Cal commit. Texas still very much in that because there's still needs that still need filled, and I think that's offensive line. And I think that is the edge position. And I still think there's one more linebacker. And we'll see if there's a wild card recruitment out there if anybody else pops into the portal, which these guys have until 11:59 p.m. East Coast time on January 16th.
All right. Before we get going, we're going to bring in Marcus here in a second. We want to tell everybody about our sponsors on Mondays. We'd like to thank our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. This month is celebrating his 4th year of sponsoring Monday's Coffee and Football Show. Thank you, John. John's a proud Texas X's Life member who truly bleeds burnt orange. His wife and 6 siblings are also UT grads. He dedicated his firm branded his firm Longhorn Wealth Management for a reason, dedicating it to providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services to Longhorn families and fans across the nation. John's been doing this for more than 30 years. He was elated with the portal dominance this weekend and believes the great additions and critical retentions are truly setting up UT for a national championship run in 2026. Fingers crossed, John. John wants to celebrate this recruiting success with all OTF fans by offering a free 90-minute private consultation via Zoom, phone, or in person to allow John to gain an understanding of your financial circumstances and help you explore how working with a certified financial planner can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. To schedule a free 90-minute consultation, just call Longhorn Wealth Team 972-707-4900 or go online, www.longhornwealth.net. John is proud to continue his sponsorship of the show this year and sends a proud hook'em to all the On Texas football fans out there.
All right. Well, it is Monday, which means it's Marcus Myers Monday. Good morning, Marcus.
Morning, fellas. How's it going?
Marcus, thank you so much for sitting in yesterday, being part of the show. I was up in the air trying to get back home, and you and Jerry and Rob were holding down the fort. I want to ask you this because it's one of the questions that I've gotten a bunch when you bring in a bunch of star players, essentially, which is some of what Texas does. It can mess with the camaraderie or the fabric or the culture of the team. You're a former player. How does that work in your eyes? How can it work to be an advantage for Texas in the team?
I think, one of the things that I remember most about, those times is the coaches involved us heavily in the recruitment of the guys that, we were after. And there were only a handful of times where we could kind of say, what's up, big cat? Morning, man. There was only a handful of times I can remember where we really had to go back to the staff and be like, I don't think this guy meshes. And so, from everything that we've heard, and, I know some of your reporting as well, Bobby, that, guys like Ryan Wingo were heavily involved in the process. And so I think that's something that, a lot of times people maybe take for granted, that these guys understand, kind of what's at stake, and they want to be involved in, a winning program. They understand that, if anybody, if the collective succeeds, then everybody, ultimately gets a bit more shine. And so, I would imagine that they involved, any and everybody heavily in these recruitments, especially the leaders of the team. And, as much as you did have that, left, I've kind of said before, you still have Arch Manning continuing to grow. You still have Colin Simmons in that locker room and guys like that. Now Trevor Gooseby returning. And so each of them, assuming a bit of those leadership roles, I think, would go a long ways to make sure that culture remains maintained. And, to this point, there's no reason, for me to believe that anything that's happened to this point would disrupt that.
Hey, Marcus, I'm going to welcome you to the show in a second, but I got a
please don't. Please
I
don't.
got to do it because I'm a man of my word with the OTF crew. But I want to ask you about the running back combination. We've talked a lot about it, but Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, obviously Christian Clark moving on. Derek Cooper moved in to Texas yesterday. You still have James Simon, Michael Terry. But that combination of Smothers and Raleek Brown, how do you see those guys and how can that affect the offense? I think from a passing game standpoint, may be underrated right now. I got to welcome you in, Marcus. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh my God, Bobby. I thought my technical difficulties had spared me of this.
Never.
This is bad, man.
You can't escape. You cannot escape Jerry Hamilton, Marcus. He's an inevitability.
So look, and so yesterday he was talking about this fast. I'm doing the Daniel fast with my church. So I got like 21 days, right? And
Wow.
that will actually keep me much more focused on not eating all the things I'm not supposed to. I'm trying to remember your question. Running back. Yeah. So yeah, I think, initially there was kind of this thought that they would need to bring in a stud, bruiser back and a stud change of pace back. And I kind of like this approach where Smothers is a much more similar to a Trey Wisner. And then, your Raleek Brown is just a bit of a all-purpose explosive guy. But both of them, I think, elevate the room from last year. And then I think you still have the opportunity to use, a Derek Cooper and bring him along slowly. I don't want, to continue to overstate this, but in my opinion, you still don't want to solely rely on that. So maybe they, dip to the G5 or FCS, realm or, somewhere else to find a bit bigger body. But I think ultimately, like Jerry was pointing at, it gives you an opportunity to use these guys in the passing game in a way that haven't been before. Raleek Brown, making you, feel some, shades of a Jaden Blue from a couple years ago. And just what your, running game was missing, from the explosivity standpoint. I know we'll, talk about Kim Coleman ad nauseum, as we move forward. But again, having somebody like that really opens everything all up, for the offense. And, as you are still trying to piece together the final, elements of the offensive line, something like that helps your running game. Having, someone like a Cam Coleman on the outside that kind of pulls the defense in a particular direction at any given time. And then, you still have James Simon back there, who I was really high on. And so, maybe that's even some opportunity for him to get some additional reps as someone that's been in the program a bit longer.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned not necessarily needing that big back, but they do have two big backs coming in, not just Derek Cooper, Jerry, but also Jet Walker. And then James Simons is kind of that in-between guy. He's not quite big yet, but he might bulk up a little bit in the offseason. Yeah. Going to be interesting to see how Texas all puts that together. You mentioned Ryan Wingo and his help in recruiting Cam Coleman. Obviously, a lot of people are trying to help recruit Cam Coleman, like at other schools. I mean, whether it's Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Alabama, et cetera. But I found it interesting. I found out yesterday that Ryan Wingo's dad even reached out to Cam Coleman's dad after Cam Coleman signed. And so it's not, to your point, Marcus, it's not just about the players. It's about the community at some level. And that Texas football, Sark's done a nice job, I think, of creating a community within his football program so that multiple people can help in some ways, shapes, or form. Question for you. Texas still needs help on offensive line, but getting guys like Gooseby and Connor Robertson to come back like they did is, I don't know if you had a situation like that you could compare it to in your days when a guy forewent the NFL draft to come back. But what does that do for the morale of the team? Because Gooseby and Robertson coming back, to Jerry's point, they're only replacing 2 starters now instead of 3 or 4.
Right. I don't, now that you mentioned it, I don't think I really went through anything like that during my time. The handful of guys that could have gone, when I was around did, because they pretty much absolutely needed to, right? It was like Derek Johnson and VY. I think there was a moment where VY considered it, and he kind of talked to us about it for a second, but it just didn't make sense. He was at that point, he had, done everything that he could, and he was a top 3 pick. So it was kind of, the writing was on the wall there. But I think it does go a long ways to solving for that offensive line issue, or at the very least, whoever you bring in, certainly fits into that mix a bit better, as opposed to having to have so much emphasis on, getting 3 starters, right? And so I think, it goes a really long ways. I was really, intrigued hearing Trevor Gooseby speak last night when y'all had him on. just some of his thoughts on why he was coming back. And then, even where his body has gone from, when he first got to campus to now. And that becomes another testament for some of these younger guys to hang around, right? There's some that are going to want to play right away. And I get that. But then, there's also others that can, envision themselves as the next version of him, just as he envisioned himself as the next version of Kelvin Banks.
Leaders lead, man. That's a reality of it. Jerry, you have something?
Yeah, I do. Marcus, let's talk a little bit about on the defensive side, because the offensive side's getting a lot of attention for a reason right now.
Sure.
But I want you to kind of tell the Texas fans what you saw when you watched Rasheem Biles. Well, number one, Muschamp added a gap, B gap thumper at about 235, 240 pounds in Justin Cryer. There's still that need for an edge. Wendell Gregory's out there, potentially another linebacker, right? Then added the over-the-ball guys, Ian Giffard, Josiah Sharma will definitely factor into that competition. Then Zion Williams is the developmental guy, so they addressed that. Bo Masco at corner. What do you think on defense so far? Because it can get lost with all the offensive things that went on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it, Jerry. Like, from the defensive perspective, getting Rasheem Biles is just as big as getting a Cam Coleman on the offensive side of the ball. He's a guy that flies around. He makes a lot of plays. You see him, when he gets his hands on the ball, he's looking to take it to the house. And he's one of those guys that, played other positions in college or in high school, rather, and developed into the player that he is. I know yesterday when we were trying to make some comps, Rod, said the one that came to mind for me, which was Levante David. And so if that is your ceiling, that's something that you have a lot of, room to potentially grow into. But I think he's an animal out there. That is then somebody that, you don't make plays like that at that size and with that level of physicality with not being a student of the game. And so that is something where now you have another, adult in the room, as you've said in the past, Bobby, that, can go right next to a Ty Anthony Smith, and the two of them can pick one another's brain. They're able to, now kind of take some of the learnings that they're able to, bring on from a Will Muschamp, and then pass that right on to a five-star that you have walking in the room and Tyler Atkinson. So I think that's a huge get. You point out Ian Giffard. That was something that, it kind of slipped under the radar for a lot of Longhorn fans, especially since it was early on. And it was kind of like, where are the bigger commits? But I mean, that's a huge space eater right there that, has played a lot of snaps. And likely won't be asked to play as many at Texas, but is someone that has already done it. And now if you're asking him to play, fewer snaps, he can, probably do that at a much higher efficiency, and then be able to keep, those guys off of those linebackers that are going to be able to go and run and hit. So, and then you add someone like Bo Masco, you're able to keep Kobe Black in the fold. So that gives you plenty of competition in that room, but then also will allow you to play much more aggressively as you move forward. So any number of things, can take place. And, I think we've kind of, thrown around the idea, maybe Kobe Black looks at moving to safety some, and Will Muschamp sees that body type and is able to sell him on how that could be, a big part of his future. You still have Jelani McDonald back there. It gives you, any number of possibilities as you get ready to take on some really high powered offenses. You have to go to, LSU to see Lane Kiffin's offense. You have to go to Tennessee to see Josh Heupel's offense, and a number of other offenses across the country. Florida has tooled up on, their wide receiver core. So I think, some of these moves very much help us as we're looking at this 9-game SEC season, along with having to play against Ohio State.
I want to point, I just want to add this. Rasheem Biles last year, how good of a player is he actually? He played 10 games. He was banged up a couple of games. 101 tackles, so over 10 tackles a game in the ACC. 17 TFLs from a linebacker, guys. 4.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown, 4 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, fumble recovery. Yeah. I mean, those are monster stats in 10 games for a linebacker. 17 TFLs as a linebacker in 10 games. And making a lot of plays in both the run game and the pass game and rushing the passer. Yep. That guy's a stud football player.
I agree.
Hey, Marcus, most people on here are fans. They're not former football players like you, right? So we follow the game a little bit differently than you do.
Sure.
Tell me how you were feeling on Sunday. Was it as a fan? Was it a little bit of that fan and former player pride? I mean, like give folks an inkling into what Marcus Myers was thinking inside his head, Whereas, I mean, fans were largely, I mean, I'm not trying to, generalize here, but just excited of Texas having success. Where was your brain going on Sunday when all this news was happening?
Man, it was all of the things for that one. If I'm honest, I'm on this side of things a little bit more now than I ever have been, and so I get a taste of what some of you guys go through, and having an understanding of what some of the things at play are, and things moving so fast you can't even share all of it if you wanted to. Having folks doubt kind of what is taking place, and then feeling a little bit vindicated as some of it plays out. And then on the, true fan side of things, for me, that's probably more on social media. I have, at any given time, like a bunch of Aggies and Sooners show up in my mentions these days. And then on days like that, and days like today, magically just nobody's around and it's a lot quieter. And then they try to, now spin that narrative. And then as a former player, you just, it feels more and more like, the rooms I was in where it was extremely competitive. And guys wanted to be around other guys that could help take us to the next level. We were really excited when the coaches kind of rolled the film of Jamal Charles, and we weren't sure at what point in the season he was going to make his impact. It ended up coming pretty early, in that Ohio State game. But like they used to show us, the film of these guys, and it was twofold. It was one to kind of help you get a bit excited about what was to come, but then also to remind you, hey, these guys are coming to take your spot. And that was always their job. The coaching staff's job is to recruit over you. And it's up to you to, figure out where you can carve out, your position to be able to, be a successful teammate and to contribute to the fold. And so as it was all unfolding, and there was kind of this domino effect, right, where we almost couldn't keep up. But I mentioned this yesterday when I was on with Rod and Jeff, and then, ultimately Jerry, like, and when you see somebody like Cam Coleman make that decision, and even the way he went about his process, it wasn't a lot of rah-rah to it. He made it clear he was going to take his visits, and then he was going to sit down and make a decision. And that's what he did. And he ultimately made that decision pretty quickly coming off of the Alabama visit. Then you have, Smothers, then you have Gooseby, then you have Robertson. Like those type of things generate some momentum. And now as you kind of hopefully turn your attention, maybe to some more offensive linemen, another linebacker, depending on what the other pieces, maybe even a potential another running back, not, some stud or anything. Those are things where you can be a bit more selective, but those type of guys, are wanting to be a part of something and understand what's being built here, as opposed to having, maybe a handful of questions. So I think I wore a little bit of every hat yesterday, Bobby, and once some of those decisions were being made.
Hey, it's actually fun seeing how the sausage is made on the media side a little bit, isn't it, Marcus?
It is. It is.
That. It's a little bit different.
I haven't before, and it's funny, because then you everybody kind of has different people that they talk to, and that's no different with myself. And then I think maybe one of the more humorous things for me is always the numbers that get reported at large versus like what they really are, or what if they're much closer to. Yes. And more times than not, they are vastly inflated, right? Yeah. Like, I had, some friends from other schools like hitting me yesterday, like, see, I paid $5 million for them. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? So it certainly is interesting, to see, like you said, how the sausage is made. And, I've told you before, but I've really enjoyed this and getting to do this with you guys and kind of flexing some different muscles. So it's been fun.
I got to tell you, Marcus, I mean, what I love about you before I met you is that you actually go watch the high school recruits on Huddle and study those guys, which I think
I'm a nerd, man.
I know. I think that's really cool as a former player. I'll say this. I think what I've learned, Bobby, I think you're probably the same. Marcus got into this at the craziest time in college football, man, starting to talk about it, is this portal 2 weeks. Now 3 days, there's a dead period, 3 days in the middle of a 2-week portal window, which may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard yet. But I mean, how do you make that make sense at all? But how fast and how much of a roller coaster this 2-week portal period is. And if it's that way for us, can you imagine being in a coach's office every day? I mean, can you imagine being there as a staff? I mean, they're used to it in games, coaching games, the ebbs and flows and momentum changes. But this is a different pressure because there's no redos.
There's no redos, and you're still dealing with young people that you don't always know where their influence is coming from.
Yes.
And as much as you want to believe, people are making great decisions, like excuse me, everybody's human. And so sometimes these decisions are being made emotionally, and some of that emotion may be coming from the people that are giving them counsel. Right? Like you have certain situations where it's relatively clear, like, yeah, they're getting good guidance, but like even in a situation with Cam Coleman, like everybody knows who his agent is, but he still has family, he still has friends that all have an opinion. And most of these people, if not the overwhelming majority of them, he's trusted his entire life, right? Or at least enough to at least value what it is that they have to stay. So I think it's one of those deals where, yeah, I mean, if you're a coach, like you can put your best foot forward. You can, do the different things from an NIL and rev share perspective to, put your best, foot forward. And then you're still just kind of waiting. And at any given time, a guy can, choose to, hey, this seems like the right place for me. And then in the midst of that, you might have a guy on the way out the door and, well, hey, hold on a minute. You didn't even talk to the coach. Like you didn't even talk to the DC or this person or that person. So I think you're absolutely right. I'm sure there's, different people that are documenting this in some other kind of way that, maybe at some point down the road, we'll get a bit more insight behind the scenes of what that's been like in some of those coaching staff rooms. Yes. But it's certainly something I don't envy. And one of the reasons why I've just not ever been interested in coaching early on, it was like, I just didn't think I would have enough patience, man. Like I struggle with my oldest niece. And I love her to death, but like I try to, give her guidance here and there, and I just get like the blank stare at times. So I could have only imagined like trying to coach kids, and now they're getting paid, and maybe in some instances paid more than the coach. Like it's wild, man. It's certainly a different time for sure, and it's moving faster than ever.
Yeah, I would say I would add this for you, Marcus, when you're talking about what's going on behind the scenes. And Jerry mentioned the ebbs and flows. Well, in a game, you actually see things transpire, right? If it's on the field, you're watching that thing transpire in front of you. You know why that play didn't work or why this one did. Yeah. In recruiting, it all happens in like the ether. You're actually
it's like
things transpire. And so that leads to more doubt and question and more anxiety maybe. But Texas saw it through. Ended up with really good players on Saturday. What'd you have to add there, Marcus?
I was just gonna say it's like calling a play, or watching a play be snapped, and then walking off to the concession stand or something, and then you're just waiting to hear the crowd roar. And whichever crowd, if you're at home, if it's really loud, then something good happened. If it's a bit of a murmur, then it's probably not a good thing. So I don't envy them at all in that regard.
Marcus, thank you so much again, bud. I think you're going to be on tonight. You're sitting in for Coach Shipley one more time, I believe. Yeah. We'll give you guys an update on Coach Shipley and his son Jordan in a little bit. Marcus, thank you so much for all your work yesterday. Wore the helmet a couple times on Sunday.
We did. Yeah, we got some good super chats in there.
After the couple big wins and super chats. Thank you so much, Marcus. You have a good one, buddy.
You too. See y'all later.
Take care. Good stuff. Blake, we got to pay some bills right now before we get to some super chats, et cetera. Oh, he is muted.
Muted. Dang it! Thank God
that's a 100-day fine right there.
I mean, yeah.
You and Dan Lanning in the playoffs.
Y'all have been muted way more than I have, so I am no longer the king of mutes. That title goes to Jeff Howe. But Jerry, I need you to tell us about Ridge wallets this morning.
Yeah. Absolutely. What is the worst thing about those old crusty leather brick wallets that we all used to have that you put in your back pocket, your left or right? Then you got in the car, made a long drive. You got out walking sideways and you thought your equilibrium was off. But nope, you had a bad wallet. That's all changed with Ridge. It's a unique, slim, and modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash. It's made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. Or there's over 50 colors to choose from, including that UT color. All Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. This is the very, very, very important part of Ridge wallets. Does it give you peace of mind knowing that all Ridge wallets have RFID blocking technology, keeping you safe from digital pickpocketers? It should. That's why they have over 100,000 five-star reviews and growing. Losing your wallet's the absolute worst, but with the Ridge AirTag attachment, you'll always know exactly where it is before panic mode kicks in. Ridge isn't just about wallets. They create premium everyday carry essentials like key cases, suitcases, and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all their products. For a limited time, our listeners are getting 10% off at Ridge by using code on Texas at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use that code on Texas and you're all set. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about him. That's OTF and Mayo. That's where you heard about him.
Thank you, Jerry. And I'm going to tell everyone about one of my favorite products. Bobby uses it too. That's HexClad. Man, with a family of 5, we cook a lot, which means we need reliable, durable cookware that gets the job done. And I'm not talking about those cheap pans that food sticks to nonstop and that scratch really easy. In my household, we use HexClad. They're hands down the best pans my wife and I have ever used. And you get the performance of stainless steel and the convenience of nonstick in one pan. Not only are they good enough for me, but even Gordon Ramsay uses HexClad in his restaurants and his home. And he's the toughest critic on the planet. If it's good enough for that guy, I promise you, you're going to love their products. And for a limited amount of time, our listeners get 10% off your order when you just head to hexclad.com/ontexas. Remember, HexClad is durable and scratch resistant. Their patented hexagon design protects against scratches, even when using metal utensils. They're also oven safe. They can handle heat up to 500 degrees. The best part is they come with a lifetime warranty. They literally last a lifetime. They're also dishwasher safe and simple to wipe clean after each use. It's seriously the best cookware I've ever owned. Don't take my word for it. Try them out yourself. Remember, you can get 10% off. Support our show. Check them out at hexclad.com/ontexas. That's HexClad, HEXCLAD.com/ontexas. Make sure to let them know that OTF sent you. And remember, bon appetit. Let's eat with HexClad's revolutionary cookware.
Great product.
I was going to say, those are Jenny Burton approved.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, finally something that I can use, Bobby.
Yeah.
That's where she came in at.
They are great. Phenomenal. Well, we got super chats we need to get to this morning. Jerry flashing the high there.
I forgot the shirt I was wearing. I had to show the shirt.
And I do want to say, Horns fan, the question too long we'll put in the chat. The chat is moving incredibly fast. I am looking for your question, but I have not found it yet, but I will continue to do so. So we'll circle back to that. Or if you can copy and paste it, put it back in there, that would be phenomenal. But a couple of comments real quick before we get to the questions. Kozer7, thank you. Jerry, get some spicy mayo. Go Horns 2024. Good. Also, Jerry's corn dog fun.
Love it.
Shelby, corn dogs.
Nice. Shelby, I wasn't going to let you down. You asked last night. I remember that. Good question.
And then going back to the commitments over the weekend, fellas, Jeff says with a good year, Biles could be late first round.
It'll be interesting because, Bobby, he doesn't fit the size mold. He's not at a premium position. But I talked about his stats from last year. You want to know those stats for the last 2 seasons? 31.5 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 3 interceptions, 13 pass breakups. And he's as productive in every way as you can be, and he has physicality. If there's somebody that may, get past the cookie cutter linebacker size of the NFL, I mentioned I kind of comp him to a better version of Jamien Sherwood at the same age. Jamien Sherwood I saw at Jensen Beach High School. He was a 6'2", 175, 180-pound safety that signed with Auburn. That in the NFL, he was a 4th-round pick, but clearly should have been drafted higher than that. He's 6'2", 215, 220 in the NFL. Has 154 tackles this year. Clearly, he's better than that draft grade he got. And that part of that is probably Bobby because he's 6'2", 6'1.5", 6'2", 215. Well, if that's where Jamien Sherwood got drafted, where's Rasheem Biles going to get drafted? Because Rasheem Biles is a much better player in college than Jamien Sherwood. Sherwood was good, but Biles is a totally different level in terms of production in every way of being a linebacker.
Yeah, and I would say this: if you're looking at draft picks in general, there's another guy that's going to be in a similar situation next year that doesn't play a premium position, but is going to have some skins on the wall, and that's Jelani McDonald.
Yeah.
Interestingly, both of those guys played multiple positions in high school and were just highly athletic and found a home. Biles spun down primarily from safety into linebacker at Pitt, whereas Jelani McDonald finally found a home at safety. But both of those, and when we say non-premium positions, we're talking about NFL structure, right? NFL doesn't always spend a lot of money on a safety. They don't always spend a lot of money on linebackers, so they don't go in the earliest round typically. Now, some do. Obviously, there are anomalies, I guess is the best way to put it. But my thought process is, does Texas right now have 4 potential top 15 picks next year or in 2027? I mean, seriously, Arch, Cam Coleman, Colin Simmons, right? Y'all agree that? And Trevor Gooseby.
I'd say as deep as the draft is, if you even go top 20, if you have 4 in the top 25 in the 27 draft, you have unbelievable first-round talent. Because that's going to be a loaded draft. Dylan Stewart, Jeremiah Smith. I mean, this is going to be a big draft next year. But potentially, possibly, I mean, if you said 4 top 25s, I said that would be amazing, right? If you get 4 into the top 15 in that draft, that will truly be amazing. And the question is, then what does Biles, what does Jelani McDonald do? By the way, Tyanthe Smith is going to be very good. I'm not saying NFL draft. I want to mention him too, because I think with the Biles conversation, how good I think Tyanthe Smith is going to be gets lost, and just how good of linebackers is Texas going to have in pass and coverage next year. But look, Bobby, the team's it's got a chance from an NFL draft perspective to be the best draft Texas has had under Sark, and one of the best drafts they've had in the modern era, in the 6-7 round era.
And some more on those portal commitments. This one here from Life with Sat says, Cam Coleman gives me Randy Moss, the Patriots 2007 vibes, and hopefully it ends with the championship.
Anybody gives me Randy Moss vibes, I'm all for it, because he's probably the best, maybe the most gifted receiver I've seen.
Yeah,
in my days. Cam Coleman, I don't think has that kind of Randy Moss speed, by the way. I think he's got really good speed now. I think it's 4.3, high 4.3, low 4.4. He has the ability to do things. One of the things that he does as well are better than just about anybody in the country is contested catches, or catches he has no business making, frankly. That's what Cam Coleman gets. He's also, 6'3", 210, Jerry?
Yeah.
To give you an example, he is bigger than Ryan Wingo. So Ryan Wingo looks big out there on the field, right? As a receiver, he is bigger than Ryan Wingo. So with him, Wingo, and Emmett Mosley, who is not small, Texas has some imposing receivers on the outside coming up. His comparison, T. Higgins might be good. He's a little bit more athletic.
He's faster.
Yeah. T. Higgins is a post-up receiver, in my opinion. Now, that's not a bad thing because he's obviously a great player. So it's not meant as a knock. Who would you? Well, A.J. Brown, maybe?
Well, here's the question. Is he's faster than T. Higgins? T. Higgins was a big-time playmaker in college, obviously at Clemson. The question is, he's different than somebody has CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's exceptional after the catch, different players. His feet are on fire. Here's the question. Is he going to be closer to T. Higgins but a faster version? Or can he elevate himself to A.J. Green? Can he elevate himself as he continues to develop as a receiver to A.J. Green? That's going to be – a lot of people said George Pickens. What I want to see from him is, can he elevate himself to be close to A.J. Green long-term for him as a player if he maximizes his talent? A.J. Green wasn't super-duper fast. He was a 4.48, 4.5 guy. But he was exceptional in every way as a wide receiver. especially when the ball was in the air.
All right, our next super chat this morning comes from, if I can find it, Devon. Thank you, Devon. He says, first, thank you guys for all of your hard work and not taking things personal from the pessimistic Longhorn Nation. Where do you rank our needs going forward in the portal 1 through 5?
O-line is obviously 1 for me. I think they still need 2, even with Robertson and Gooseby returning. I still think you need 2 coming back. I think that they could use an edge. I know after Wendell Gregory right now, the defensive end, Big 12 defensive freshman of the year at Oklahoma State last year. Still after him, I think that they could use another linebacker. And I'll just say this because I think it's the truth. Texas is in this, and I tried to explain this, like part of what all in meant to me, Jerry and Blake, is that they're going to go big game hunting if big game goes into the portal.
Yeah.
If they think somebody can outside of just filling needs, and I'm trying to say this the right way. If a big name guy goes in that they think can materially help their team, they're going to go big game hunting still. Now, there's no telling who's going to go in the portal. A lot of people, oh, this guy's going in. What about it? What if this guy goes in? I get all of that. But frankly, 4 weeks ago, we played that game. And it didn't end up well. So I'm not playing that game until they go in the portal anymore. Or at least announce they're going in the portal. But my point for everybody is, yes, they have needs, and we can rank them. And I think it goes offensive line, linebacker, edge, maybe a second wide receiver just to fill up the depth chart there with some adults, maybe a safety, maybe another corner. But I think the bigger piece for me is the mentality behind the scenes is to go big game hunting if big game is available. And that's just going to be their mantra. And so I'm actually, and you should be too, I think as fans, interested to see if any big names go in the portal this week. Because if they do, and Texas thinks they can materially affect the team, Texas is going to be a player most likely. I can't say that on every single player, but if a quarterback goes in, they're not going to be, right? But I think that Texas is ready, and I do mean this. I do think they're all in for 2026, and they have been from the start. It just didn't look like that, I think, for a lot of people. But I think now people are understanding the results.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is I said this too is throughout this time, and by the way, the fans, I love all you guys. It's passion. You care. I mean, that's what you want. I think Kentucky basketball gets over the cliff a little bit, but it's, that's what you want. I mean, you want the passion. That's why there's a channel that's so successful, because you guys care about what you watch and the team you love, and that matters. And I think this is what's a big takeaway from the portal for me. The biggest takeaway is in high school recruiting, you have time to kind of pivot from June, July commitments and still time to work. I think with the portal, if you swing for the fences, you're going to hit some morning track fly balls. So not all of them are going to get out of the park, but you have to be willing to do it. And then when maybe you hit 4 or 5 warning track fly balls in a row, how quickly do you pivot and get something done? Because the window is so short. 11 days of on-campus visits out of the portal window. That the ability to pivot and still fill your needs with quality football players, I think is so important in the portal because nobody's going to get everybody. No chance. I think the other thing, and I said this last night, guys, which will be interesting to me, is I have multiple college coaches that I've talked to that said that they've been watching what's happened in the portal this year with guys jumping in the portal because of coaching changes, but ending up going back to those schools. I think there's going to be a little bit different strategy next year through some of these coaching change guys. Are you actually truly leaving your school? before you make a serious move on those guys, because that can cause you, if you pivot quickly and have the ability to pivot quickly, you can still see positive returns. What happens if you don't? What happens if some of those recruitments drag on and you don't have the time to pivot? You can get caught holding the bag very easily in a short portal window.
All right, our next got a pair of super chats that kind of go hand in hand here, so I'm going to read y'all both of these. Jason Hablinski says, "Does this put a ton of pressure on Sark? You can't spend all the money on weapons and not produce a top offense, something he has yet to do in Austin." And then Poofish 1111 says, "Will there be a black mark left on Sark and Arch's legacy at Texas if Texas isn't playing for the Natty next season? Could it flip the trajectory of the program negatively?"
Man, you guys like to break into jail. That's what I mean. You guys are thinking negatives, and I'm thinking positives this morning. And I'm not necessarily Mr. What do you think?
Optimism.
Yeah, I'm not Mr. Optimist usually, but I'm not thinking where y'all are right now. So you guys get an award for breaking into jail. Look, I think that there's always possibilities of negative things happening. I mean, football is football. I mean, there can be injuries. There can be a strange bounce at the goal line. I mean, there's just so many different things. Turnovers tend to be odd at times. So all of those things can happen, but I think you have dramatically reduced your the chasm between being good and not so good with this group. That's what Texas has done by getting 2 running backs, by getting Cam Coleman. They're not going to be, they have the potential to be great. And even I would say the ceiling versus the floor is something that we talk about a little bit when you talk about where can a team go. I think the ceiling is a national championship. I think by getting guys like Cam Coleman, Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown, Rasheem Biles, even Bo Masco is a big one at corner, believe it or not, because of the situation there and the lack of experience. Getting those guys elevates your floor. And what I mean by that is I don't see them losing a bunch of games, in spurts or anything like that, because your floor is elevated. Now, can you win the Natty? Takes a special group, man, and it takes special things to happen. And predicting that or guaranteeing that, I think is just, not the way to look at it. But should they compete for it next year? And just look, if you ask Sark, I'm giving you all these tools. What's Sark going to say? Oh, no, I shouldn't compete for the Natty. No, he's going to say he should compete for the national championship himself. So I don't think you're putting any more pressure on him to either create a prolific offense or a prolific football team. He already has those. I mean, he's making $11 million a year. I mean, he's got some pressure on him. And, I think that a lot of people would say, well, I'll take that pressure. But the point being, Texas, I think, has, by doing what they've done in the portal, have elevated their floor so that some of these worries or concerns that y'all are putting forth aren't necessarily, I don't want to say realistic, because you never know. There's always that the outside areas of the bell curve, right? But inside the bell curve, y'all are a little bit off right now, in my opinion.
I would say natties are never guaranteed. Look at the 2 teams playing for it this year. It's an amazing story in Indiana, right? Started with bringing a lot of his key staff members, and his most talented guys from James Madison. A lot of continuity there. Has done a great job at quarterback in the portal. Then there's Miami, who is built totally different. They're more of an NIL era team, especially on defense with the coordinator change. There's no guarantees to this stuff. My whole key is, have you put yourself in position? Do you put yourself in position in the Big Ten or SEC to get in the playoffs? If you put yourself in position to get in the playoffs, then you let the chips fall where they may. That's the way I look at all this. Why is the portal, this run in the portal, so important? Because I can see the light that gets you into the playoffs now that can withstand the schedule. Ohio State at home in a 9-game SEC schedule, and still have the talent and the playmakers to get into a playoff. That's the biggest thing for me. What happens after that? I mean, anybody that's followed the NCAA basketball tournament over the years know how crazy some of this stuff is. And it's definitely not guaranteed. But I do think, look, I will say this to that person's $10 super chat. I think if Arch started 2 years in Texas, didn't get a playoffs either year, that would be written about extremely negative if that happened. That's a reality. That means you're going to win a title, but it would be talked about and written about extremely negatively. Somebody just said Dylan Raiola committed to Oregon. All right. I think he's good, but I think he's one of those overrated portal guys in rankings. He drops the ball to his waist and well below the water on every throw. He's got some things he needs to clean up if he's going to take the next step.
He likes to throw it to the other team is what he likes to do a little too much.
When you drop that
too many risks.
When you drop that thing to your belt buckle, 90% of the time when you throw it, what does a defender have? He has 2 extra split seconds to read your eyes. Ball's going to go the other way.
Our next one this morning comes from Nat Gome 87. Thank you for your super chat. Says, hook 'em. Great weekend of transfers. Realistically, is there anyone we could pursue that's top 100 level on the portal outside of the remaining targets that y'all listed earlier?
Yes, but here's the thing that needs to be answered. Who all is going in the portal first? We still have another week, guys. And I told y'all last week that there would be 1,000 more people go into the portal between now and January 16th. I am still sticking to that. There will be a number of elite players go into the portal over the next 24, 48, 72 hours. So there may not be top 100 level guys, although I think Wendell Gregory and Cade Uluave are both considered that.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not. I don't think this portal cycle across the country is done. A lot of people seem to think it is. I don't think it is at all.
Yeah. So, especially as time goes on and agents and kids are hearing about what some of these guys are getting from an NIL standpoint.
All right, and then we have one from Terrence Jones, switching gears for just a moment. Hey, Bobby and Jerry, would you guys like to see Sark have a spring game for player development and for the fans?
I really don't care about the spring game itself because I don't think the spring game is actually it's never a game. It's also always some convoluted, well, this team gets 1 point for this and 3 points for a 3 and out, and
it's made for TV.
Yeah, and it's not real. Do I think in my heart of hearts, I think that Texas loves like Chris Del Conte, Drew Martin, Sean Harcourt, Sarah, all those people love having the spring game atmosphere. What I would like to see be a part of it isn't just the players out there signing autograph. Just show us an hour's worth of practice.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a game. Let's just meet in the stadium for an hour and then go do all the other stuff. Bring the kids out there, tailgate a little bit, go down Bevo Boulevard. That I don't think they need an actual game.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I don't think that's what needs to happen.
They need to have a day.
Yeah. And it just includes an hour's worth of practice.
Yeah.
But so Terrence, you're making, I think Terrence would agree with that, right? Yeah. I mean, we don't need a game because it's not really a game. Let's just go watch practice for an hour, hang out with your buds. I've mentioned this several times. One of the things I've done the last, I guess it's going on maybe 10 years now, 7 or 8 years now. Every spring game, me and some of my buddies from college, we all meet in Austin and hang out for a weekend. And we make it a full weekend, and going to watch the spring game or practice, et cetera, would be part of what we do. So I think that'd be great.
All right, and then talking about spring game, let's talk about Junior Day because that's coming up as well. KD35, I'm the best, says, how many high school kids will be at junior day in a few weeks?
Been so big. I mean, portal's a 19-hour-a-day deal. We'll get to some of that later in the week. Texas is scheduled to have a junior day on Saturday. We'll start getting to some of that later this week as we get closer to it. But there's going to be a number of top targets there, obviously, especially on the offensive line. Brian Swanson, Kamara, a number of guys. Texas staff's been on the road a little bit. Jeff Banks is on the road. I expect some of these other guys to be on the road during this dead period. The next 3 days, we'll be on the road seeing guys. I don't know if, unless they bring some 2028s in too, just to get them on campus, I'm not sure there's going to be as many guys at the junior day moving forward. Because I think if you're going to go to smaller high school classes, then you're not going to bring in as many guys. You're going to really focus in on your guys that you already like. And so it may be a little bit smaller number. We'll see.
Well, we got a lot more questions to get to this morning, but first, I need to tell everyone about Prize Picks. Man, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. And with high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops. Prize Picks lets you take control. Last week, I cashed in on the Joe Z special, went 3 of 3 on my picks, tripled my money thanks to Oregon and Miami. And with the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners like me with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Picks partners like myself and tell or fade our picks with just one click. And now Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and right here in the great state of Texas. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code ONTEXAS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, code ONTEXAS will get you $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
Good stuff, Blake Monroe.
Yeah. 50 states. Can't beat that. All right. Speaking of Josie, Rocky P here says Josie asked if DeCorian Moore jumped in the portal. Would Texas go after him? I doubt that. I think that's Rocky P asking that. Also, Marcus, I hope you're in the chat so you can answer this. As a player, how do you absorb so many new faces into the culture? So let's start with that first part there.
I asked Marcus that question actually, and he said,
yeah,
recruiting them a little bit is part one of the process. Then watching their film, the coaches would show each other the new guys' film. It's all part of it. The great thing that Marcus mentioned, though, was it's the understanding by the current players that new players are there to take your job. And once you get past that, then it's about you working harder and doing more. As far as DeCorian Moore, again, this is that wish casting. I call it wish casting. We hope this guy goes in the portal. We hope that, let's see if people go in the portal. I think I'm done with this guy may enter his name. Like there's an offensive lineman at Ole Miss that says he's entering the portal. And people, Texas is definitely going to be in. Let's see if he actually gets in the portal by the time the Ole Miss collective really gets a chance to talk to him. Because they are on a little bit of a roll right now with retaining players. Some of which have said they were going to enter the portal. So let's wait on all of that wish casting. I really believe that. Doesn't mean Texas wouldn't be interested or any of that stuff. I'm just trying to say if big names go in the portal, Texas is going to be interested if they think they can help move the team. I'll reiterate that. But beyond that, I wouldn't put the cart before the horse.
Jerry, I got a super chat for you. From MP Houston. He says, just chipping into the OTF Coffee Duke's Mayo Metamucil Fund.
Yes.
Thanks for the great work as always, fellas, and hook 'em.
I feel the Metamucil working right now. The show's going to have to end in like 10 minutes.
Man, to take an extended ad break here.
Look, I drank it before I did this. I drank a cup of coffee 30 minutes before the show so I could eat the corn dogs, and I've been drinking Metamucil because you have to have an exit strategy, and I do not want to feel like crap all day, but I wanted to come through for the community.
I want to say this. I don't think I've ever heard it called an exit strategy before.
Oh, goodness. Clifton Hines, thank you for your super chat. Clifton says, offensive line. This is like having a supercar with no engine.
Not a bad metaphor or analogy. I think that Texas is still working there. Don't be surprised if things don't happen. Don't be surprised if good things happen. Give it some time. Texas still has some guys out there. They will likely bring guys in this coming week when they're able to again on Thursday. But we'll see how that goes. I agree. They've got to focus on the portal. Somebody asked me about the priorities, and I think offensive line is priority one. And I think they agree with that too, by the way.
Zachary Moore says, should I go to the Tennessee game or the LSU game? Both will be great atmospheres, but we are struggling to decide.
LSU.
What do you think, Bobby?
Man, two totally different atmospheres, by the way.
I'm with Jerry.
Look, if you want crazy, like you don't know what's going to happen before the game and after the game and during the game, go to LSU. Because I've been there twice for night games, and it's crazy. All day is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those atmospheres where there's a lot of alcohol involved, and you just don't know what's going to happen. Okay. Tennessee is more, what's the best way to put it? It's more structured. Like it's you go do this and then you go to the game and then you leave. Baton Rouge it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm here to tell you this 2026, this is the only time you'll ever see Arch Manning play at LSU. That's going to be added vitriol to that game. I think it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. And the first time Texas visits LSU as an SEC member, and it's Lane Kiffin, if you had to make a decision between those two for this 26 season, no brainer for me.
The chat's pretty split as well, about 50-50 on which one to go to.
I think that maybe if you're younger, you want to go to LSU. And if you're older, you may want to go to Tennessee. How about I put it that way? Because I mean, seriously, I've been to a couple games at LSU. I mean, for them to be loaded for bear at 10 a.m. for a 7 p.m. game is nothing. I mean, it is who they are. So I would say, again, if you want to feel safe, go to Tennessee. If you don't mind a rogue element, go to LSU.
All right, next super chat this morning comes from The Lee. The Lee says, man of my word, happily eating crow today. Do you think the new defensive scheme there will be a change in the way the offense attacks? P.S. Stop, Jerry.
Oh, my stomach stopped me. I'm done.
Do you think the new defensive scheme there will be a change? I definitely think teams are going to have to pick and poke Texas a little bit differently. Like I have no problem saying that I think that opponents figured out, hey, we got to move the ball methodically against Texas. And that's why a team like Kentucky, who didn't score much, in part controlled the game with their offense and his ability to run the ball for first downs. Will Muschamp's defense not as easy to do that against because he will play press man. He will force some things. Now, other teams may have more big plays against Will Muschamp's defense too. So there's some give and take, right? But it will be Texas's defense is going to attempt, whether right or wrong, they're going to attempt to dictate terms a little bit better than Texas defenses have in the past. We'll see what that actually means when they get on the field.
And then our next super chat this morning comes from Big Poke. He says, "What position will Michael Terry play now?"
It's a great question. My biggest thing for Michael Terry is I hope he settles in the one position, develops, because he spent majority of the year at wide receiver. Then he moved to running back. He's yet to get true game reps at either. I tend to think it's going to be running back, guys, but I don't think it's a lock. I tend to think it'll be running back, though, because I do think with Christian Clark moving on, Texas has 6 running backs right now. Texas has had running back injuries throughout, and I'm not trying to jinx players, throughout Sark's tenure. Guys are going to get banged up playing the position, especially in the 9-game SEC schedule coming up, plus Ohio State. There's guys are going to be nicked up. I think it's going to be running back, but I don't think we can say for sure until after spring practice concludes.
Okay, after spring practice, fine, but he's going to play running back during spring practice.
Yeah.
So I do think that his position is set currently. They loved what they saw during fall or during bowl practice from him at running back, legitimately. So now it's about, to Jerry's point, settling in and making sure that that's really where he needs to be. Good body lean is what I was told, Jerry, on Michael Terry at running back.
His biggest thing, if he sticks at running back, it's hard to ever get this in practice without getting in a game, as a big back, you have to be as physical or the most physical player on the field. That's just the reality for a big back, especially in the SEC. Are you going to be the most physical player on the field on contact? That's going to be the big hurdle for Michael Terry because he's never had to be that before.
We got some more supers, but I wanted to do a couple of things first. I wanted to read this one from Brad. He said, "Just wanted to say thank you, OTF. I'm going through a bad divorce right now, but watching you guys really takes some stress off. So thank you." Appreciate that, Brad.
Update on Jordan Shipley.
And that was going to be my second one. If you could give an update on Shipley.
Yeah, I received a text from Coach Shipley yesterday morning. He said that everybody's there supporting Jordan. And he said Jordan is getting better every day. And he said it's been tremendous. The doctors have had some really great things. I want this to be, make sure, I don't want us to be the vehicle where the Shipley family talks about its private issues. And so I am going to share things from time to time, but they have Facebook pages and stuff like that. I guys, all I will say to this is continue to try to lift them up. Okay. Jordan's still got a long road ahead of him. He's going to fight, and just continue to think about them, please. And Bob is, Bob's the dad of that family, and it's tough, but we're here for him and thinking of them greatly. Jordan's got a great family, and I'm not just talking about his wife and kids, but I'm talking about his extended family, dad, sister, brother, just really, really good people. And I'm happy for him that he's got people around him that can help support him through this.
All right, let's jump back over to some super chats, and let's take this one from Billy in Warsaw. He says, "It was my birthday this weekend, and landing Coleman and Biles was the perfect gift. Watch y'all every day here in frigid Poland. Sending my love to OTF and prayers to the Shipley family from Europe."
Hey, thank you for the super chat. By the way, go watch the football leagues if you've seen a young offensive lineman, because they're going to be tough and mean. Let me know.
Billy, you are not the only viewer of ours from Poland originally. Jack Lala was a professor there in Poland for a long time and was with us, and thinking of him today as well with your super chat. Thanks, Billy.
Drew Says, thanks for the hard work and time, OTF. Yesterday was a lot of fun. My wife had a full day of On Texas football and portal education. You'll have to show her Jerry eating the corn dogs later on. And you guys killed it yesterday.
Texas Longhorns killed it yesterday. That's who really killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't us. And when you get Cam Coleman, Hollywood Smothers, get Trevor Gooseby to return, Connor Robertson to return, it ain't Bobby Burton, Jerry Hamilton, Rod Babers, Jeff Alben, CJ, Marcus, Blake. It's Brandon Harris, Steve Sarkeesian, Chris Gilbert, Jeff Banks. I mean, name it over there. That's who it is. John Michael Jones. My hat's off to all of those guys. Really, they're the ones that made yesterday special.
And I got Horn Fans the super chat here. I'm actually going to put it on the screen for y'all. With Boom bringing in old nose tackles, are we switching to 3 down linemen? And if so, who are they looking to play at the left and right end? If Simmons is playing outside linebacker, I'm worried he's going to be in coverage too much again. Jerry?
Now, they will be multiple, but there will be some 3-man front. Some people have actually called the Georgia defense mint. I mean, that is mint defense is what it's called. They're going to be multiple, but they went after 2 nose guards for a reason in the portal. They went after 2 350-plus pound nose guards for a reason in the portal. And I would not worry about Colin Simmons as much in his coverage. I mean, if you're in a 3-man front and those outside backers called overhang backers, Colin Simmons will be one of those. And his job is to pressure the quarterback and be a playmaker going downhill. So Colin Simmons will not be playing in coverage next year as much as he was this year. And that's a good thing for the Texas defense and a good thing for Texas football. Because I think he should have had 15-plus sacks this year. He would have if he played downhill more.
I'll just put it this way. Last time Will Muschamp was the coordinator at the University of Texas, he had 2 guys named Brian Arakpo and Sergio Kendall.
Right.
You didn't see them in coverage much. And they were linebackers.
Hoosier Hook'em Horns. What's the word on Colton Bosick? I haven't heard his name at all.
He's still looking for his first healthy season since high school. And now he's entering his last one. And it just sucks for the kid. And it happens in this very physical sport that some guys just have really bad injury luck. And he's been one of those guys at Texas. And you would like to see a guy that's that talented and has ability that he does actually have a fully healthy season to see how much he could contribute. But it just has not been in the cards for him since he's been in Austin. He's missed too much practice time, too much weight room time. He's just missed that time that he needs.
And then our next one here comes from Lock and Horn. Says, good morning, OTF. Jerry, I'm sick after seeing that. Jerry may be sick too. Regarding penalties, we have broken down by offense, defense, special teams, and player. Is this a culture, coordinator, scheme, or youth issue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes is my answer. It's all of those things. I think that my point on this is Texas finished 135th of 136 teams in penalties. They need to improve. But some of that, and I want to say this, some of that starts with, not moving on the offensive line, not getting special teams penalties early in the year. I think Texas improved as the season wore on, actually, but then got into some games that were tough. I'll put it this way. I don't think it's any one thing that's just super easy. I do think that the focus and attention to detail this spring should help some of those issues. I think it will be a pointed issue for Sark. And one of the things I want to ask him is really what's your goal for the spring? Like, what are you trying to go into the spring with and come out of it with now that you've got these new players? So you're going to want camaraderie and mixing them in. But what about the team goals? Like, we knew 2 years ago it was better red zone offense, right? What are those overarching themes he's looking to address in spring ball? I think penalties and discipline may be one of them.
Yeah, and I think it has to be number one.
And Nat Gome here. Thank you again for another super chat. How much did we pay Coleman and Hollywood Smothers?
Definitely more than I make. I don't have exact numbers. I do not have exact numbers. I have round ones, and I don't necessarily think that's smart to share with Texas's opponents.
And I think some of the numbers put out publicly are overblown.
Well, some people are guessing.
Yeah,
is the problem.
And by the way, the agents like the numbers really high.
Yeah.
All right, our next super chat this morning comes from Derek Smith. Thank you, Derek. He says, good evening from Dubai. Some of you were unbearable. Comparison is the thief of joy. Know your head coach. Sark plays the long game with all recruits because he wants solid, not wavering commitments. Hook 'em.
By the way, yes. I mean, and by the way, I'm jealous you're super chatting from Dubai. He probably has a great view. I'll tell you that wherever he's at, he's going to have a good view in Dubai. But yeah, look, I mean, that's what Sark's going to do. And there were some warning track fly balls, but you're going to keep swinging. You got to keep your exit velo up to get the big ones. So we know what Sark is about from a recruiting standpoint. And again, my whole take in the portal in this 2-week window, which is actually 11 days of visits, is you better be able to pivot quickly.
Michael Bennett committed to Oregon, it looks like.
Yep. Just confirmed it via his Instagram. He has committed. So
did he even visit there?
He had to visit there without it getting out publicly. He could have gone there straight after Indiana and right into the dead period.
Okay. So the Yale two-time all Ivy League performers now off the table for Longhorns. I'm going to make sure he's signed, by the way, before I say that officially. But the thought process there is, a guy puts out a graphic like that, it's probably done. That leaves two guys right now. Wendell Gregory, defensive end out of Oklahoma State. He was a Big 12 Defensive Newcomer of the Year. And Cade Uluwave, the linebacker at Cal, as the two guys left that Texas continues to pursue that were already in the portal and had visited Texas. Texas currently at 14 commitments in the transfer portal overall.
All right, well, let's get back to some questions. I just wanted to bring that up since we had talked about it so much. And Jerry, as I get back to questions, I need you to get your lampshade. Hopefully you have it beside you. Maybe.
I've kept it ready.
All right. Zach Harvey here. Let me put Jerry on the full screen so you get the full effect here. See, patience is a virtue. I mentioned last week that this will be the best team Sark has ever had. Time to laugh about the childish comments. Sark knows what he needs to do. This is his career. Can't wait to watch this team cook. Hook 'em.
I'm ready for it, too, in a major way. I mean, Texas has to – look, you talk about getting Arch the pieces he needs to compete. Upgrade at running back, upgrade at wide receiver. I mean, they're adding Cam Coleman while DeAndre Moore departs. Now, I think DeAndre Moore is a good, solid player. I don't think he's Cam Coleman. Trey Weiser, really good player, I think. Not as good as Smothers or Brown. And I feel good about where Texas is at now, especially that Gooseby and Robertson are returning. But I do think they need more O-line, Zach. I think that, and I think they need one more linebacker with experience.
All right. And going back up to some of the ones that we had previously. Kyle, January 23rd, will we see a 16-team college football playoff?
I think it's headed there. I really do. I don't know if it'll be this year or next year, but it's going to get here quick.
Well, they have to make the whole idea that Kyle Vichaska's talking about here, Jerry, is that January 23rd is the deadline to decide.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been fairly, to Jerry's point, we haven't heard much in the last 2 weeks. The portal has kind of overtaken the world, I think. along with the College Sports Commission and their thought process on what's legal and what's not within the portal. But my point on Kyle Vichaska here is I think they are moving to it. I think that the bigger piece is going to be, where do they play the first 2 games? The round of 16 and the round of 8, I think, should be on college campuses. And then, maybe move up some other pieces. That's my personal opinion.
And the long term is, what do you do with your conference championship games?
Well, here's the other thing I would say. If you lose the first weekend and you expedite that 16-team playoff, you could actually still have them play in bowl games.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? You could be in the playoffs and then actually lose and still go to a bowl game, 3 weeks later. But there need to be, that's going to take time. And unfortunately, I'm not so sure you could get all these guys on the same page with 2 years, much less 2 weeks.
Okay, our next one from Double D. Thank you, Double D. Are any of our new running backs pass-catching running backs? I feel like we have lacked that since Bijan and Blue left.
Yes, both of them. Last 2 seasons, Hollywood Smothers has 56 receptions his 2 seasons at NC State. Raleek Brown, he's explosive, shifty, nifty guy, making people miss out of the backfield. Playing in space is where he's at his best. So, yes, both of those guys will add to the running back passing game out of the backfield, and they both have the ability to make some big plays in the passing game, especially with the wide receivers that are going to be at Texas and the situations that Sark can get them in from a matchup standpoint. I think both of them, they're both quality pass catchers, different ways. I think Raleek Brown is more explosive as a pass catcher because in space he can make 3 or 4 moves without moving laterally much at all in terms of gaining ground and grasp. He can make people miss in a phone booth. I think Smothers is a little different as a receiver. Both of them have been productive.
Our next super chat this morning comes from Isaiah. Any more big swings left in the portal?
There is. Yeah.
I'll just say that. I mean, they're not sure yet.
Yeah.
There's, other than Wendell Gregory and Kedu Luave, I don't know if there are any quote unquote big swings available. So let's see if any become available this week and then recalibrate. These are the 2 guys remaining right now. We mentioned Gregory. He has visited Texas Tech and Wisconsin, among others. Uluave visited Michigan over the weekend after visiting Texas Thursday and Friday. Both of those guys, I am told, are nearing a decision.
Yes.
So are we on alert for those guys to choose one way or the other? The answer is yes. So please realize that.
All right, Bobby, I'll tell you what, before we get to our last few super chats of the day, why don't you tell everyone one more time about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management?
Yeah, thanks to John, President, Longhorn Wealth Management. John's a proud Texas Exes Life member who served on the Dallas Texas Exes board for 15 years and now helps lead the build-out of the Collin County Exes chapter. Also consistently serves his fellow Longhorns as a certified financial planner and founder of Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John wants to let all of the OTF family know that January is National Financial Wellness Month, and he wants to encourage everyone to take some time to really examine the state of your own financial wellness. To help you do that, John's offering all OTF fans a free 90-minute private consultation to learn how a certified financial planner can help you properly evaluate your current financial plans and help structure them to maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and ensure your legacy. To schedule your free 90-minute private consultation with John, simply call the Longhorn Wealth Team 972-707-4900 or schedule online www.longhornwealth.net. John sends a heartfelt welcome to all the OTF family.
Thank you, Bobby. And we'll jump right back into some more here. This next one this morning comes from Let's take it from Derek Smith. Thank you, Derek. Is Dan Lanning, Lincoln Riley 2.0. Stockpiles talent, has great regular seasons, and then consistently gets embarrassed on the big stage. Sheesh.
I would say no to that. Look, he has gotten to the playoffs 2 years in a row in the Big Ten. I mean, and he had an undefeated regular season in the Big Ten. So I would say no to that. I think he is he's accomplished some things that, Lincoln Riley only accomplished in the Big 12 and has not at USC. So I think Dan Lanning's another level from Lincoln Riley.
I don't. Until he proves it, I don't. Now, Lincoln Riley started out of the gates as well or better than Dan Lanning.
He did it in the Big 12, though.
Dan Lanning hasn't won a conference championship. All right. That's all.
Wasn't Oregon the number one seed, though? Didn't they win the Big Ten last year?
I thought they lost. Didn't they lose?
Let me Google it.
They beat Penn State in the conference. He won the Big Ten. I think he's another level from Lincoln because Lincoln, his struggles have been magnified in the Big Ten.
I think.
But I'll say this. But I'll say this about Lanning. You can't get beat by 30 in multiple years in the playoffs, else it will start chipping away at all the public praise you get all the time.
I think that my point on it is that if you're asking if he's 2.0, they came out of the gate the same way. Now, granted, one did do it in the Big 10 versus the Big 12, to Jerry's point. And I appreciate that. But they both came out of the gate pretty hot, and losing big like that 2 years in a row does have some issues. He also lost both coordinators this offseason. That's true. I mean, Tosh Lupoy was trying to recruit for Cal, and Will Stein's trying to recruit for Kentucky. Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
Good luck on that.
Okay. I wanted to bring this up real quick before we got to our last few super chats. This is actually from John Turrentine's father. He says, new chapter starts today. He started college today. Enjoy your semester, John. Your brother is right down the street if you need him. So big news there, obviously, as all the kids get going today.
Hey, is that a tell? Is he going to be number 50?
Oh,
his jersey number. You see that?
Yeah.
Could be a tell on what jersey. I think that jersey number is available too.
Good eye, Bobby.
By the way, I know people talk about his weight. I want people to understand one thing about him as a player. He's entering college as a 620-pound squatter at 275 pounds. That ratio is off the charts, and he's super athletic. The weight will come, but he doesn't have to get a lot stronger. He's got strength, and he's got athleticism. So now it's just about adding the weight to the frame. That guy's going to be a near 700-pound squatter when 2 or 3 years into Texas.
That's insane.
It's a massive number for somebody his size.
Hey, Jerry, before I forget, you need to look at the new indoor facility that North Crowley's building, by the way, when you get some time.
Oh, the indoor track. North Crowley is going to have the only indoor track in the state of Texas, a full track. So when there's bad weather, they're going to be able to rent that dude out for track meets. It's spectacular. They're the new football season, football facility for Crowley ISD. Their stadium is top notch. But that indoor track, it's going to be a one and only full track in the state of Texas.
Yeah, it's insane. You got to look it up.
Yeah.
Clayton, North Texas. Thank you, Clayton. Who's this year's Matthew Caldwell? LSU just got a guy from Elon, not Musk. And then on a related note, before y'all answer that, I want to tie this one into that from SC Entertainment. So KJ Lacey is that much far ahead of Trey Owens at the same time to not warrant a portal quarterback? Trey looked good in the last spring game of a lifetime.
I think KJ Lacey is that much farther ahead because he beat him out before the season started. And I do think this could be a late portal ad, Bobby. I could see them taking a experienced guy to be third team. So if you have horrible injury luck, you don't get into a Missouri situation, and you let Diabell get his full red shirt to develop, get healthy, build the strength up, get fully healthy, not get hit for a year, get fully healthy, which I think he's doing great. But I'm just saying that time to keep getting stronger, build out that frame, and have that developmental year. That is the plan. So I think that's a sneaky late portal addition, maybe as a third team quarterback. But KJ Lacey's your solid number 2.
I think that, to Jerry's point, Texas wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks. They currently have 3.
Yeah.
So where that guy comes in at levels, I don't know how good he's going to be, but I do think that that'll be probably a small add at some point. I don't think they're going big game hunting at quarterback, though.
No.
I think they got their big game there.
Hunter wants to know, when do ticket prices normally come out?
I think that there's a town hall from Chris Del Conte scheduled early February. I don't have the exact date, but he usually does that in February. And then the ticket renewals go out the very next day. So, Hunter, that'll be the time. That the last couple of years, that has been the timeline when Texas has announced that. Good question, because that's just right around the corner. Ticket renewals is.
And then our final one of the day, fellas, comes from Texas on my mind. Is Blake Gideon still coming? The silence seems deafening.
I think our report was that he is expected to be on the University of Texas staff, and I'm not backing down from that report at this point. It was announced yesterday or Saturday, can't remember which, that Georgia Tech has hired a new defensive coordinator. Stunningly, they did not mention that Blake Gideon had departed. And I'm trying to read the tea leaves here, and I don't know everything involved, but Blake Gideon took that job in February of last year. And typically there's a buyout if you don't stay for a year. So we'll see what that all means. I don't want to get into the, ins and outs of that. But when Blake Gideon shows up on campus, he will let us know, is my opinion on that.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. Want to thank John, along with Hexclad, Ridge Wallet, and Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in as well, even those that made it through all the corn dog eating. And Bobby, what can they tune into later today?
We've got multiple shows coming up, and there could be some news coming down the pike as well. So be aware of that. But also, if you want to know everything that's going on minute by minute, make sure you check out On Texas Football's online community at ontexasfootball.com. Right now, we have a special introductory price. This is for first-time subscribers only. $1 for 1 month. You can try us out, see what you think over at ontexasfootball.com. Whether it's Jerry, CJ, myself, Blake, Jeff Howe, we're all dropping news and notes almost every hour on the hour of updating you guys with what's going on. You can also join in the fun and the conversation among like-minded Longhorn fans. Again, that is on TexasFootball.com. We'll be back later today here on the YouTube channel as well with more information and another show or two. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, and I did want to say one other thing here if I can find it. Repeat Jackson said, I'm ready for baseball. Texas baseball starts today. It's their first day of practice. I'm actually about to, speaking of On Texas Football, drop some notes on the team over there. So if you're a member, you can go check that out here in a little bit. Well, we will be back tomorrow morning. We hope you have a phenomenal day today. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Hook 'em horns.